Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program The Mask That Beats Face ID on iPhone 10.
Tham dự chương trình hôm nay về phía Bkav tôi xin giới thiệu.
Today, I would like to introduce our team. First of all, Mr. Nguyễn Tự Quảng, CEO of Bkav, Mr. Ngô Tuấn Anh, Vice President of Cybersecurity of Bkav. We're also very happy to have the representatives of the Vietnamese and international press and media to join us today. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nguyễn Tuấn Anh to deliver a presentation on Face ID, the mask that beats the Face ID on the iPhone 10.
Vâng, xin chào tất cả các chị đã có mặt.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Chào mừng các anh các chị đến buổi.
Good morning. I'd like to give you a presentation on the mask that beats Face ID on the iPhone 10.
Vâng, trước tiên thì tôi sẽ
Well, let me give you first of all a brief of all the findings that Bkav has found over the past 9 years in terms of the Face ID or face recognition technology.
I don't want anyone to be routine. It means that I have to change feature to the system. Just click into the account. There is a small screen as distant from those here mount. It is this image from the sky. Very low quality. Okay. Also that.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I first heard about the technology. I thought that it was very surprising that they would let you do that, but I figured they must have some kind of protection, but I guess that they didn't. So I was very impressed when I saw that it was completely broken and bypassed all the security whatsoever. So it was very cool.
I sure hope they're paying attention to this because that's critical to the security of privacy of the users. So I was very surprised when I learned that Bkav let them know about the problem and they didn't do anything to solve it, and they didn't even respond to the company. I think that's irresponsible on their part. After reading the research from Bkav, I will definitely not use it. I would use the good old password, using several letters in my password with caps locks and letters, but no, I'm not using it.
Well, so you've just seen a footage of the findings that we were able to find in terms of how to beat these passwords in the conference in Washington, D.C. So, and recently we also are able to beat the iris scanner of Samsung in 2010. So you've just seen a footage of the findings that we were able to find.
I don't want
So from 2008, BKAV was the first company that was able to beat the face recognition technology that was used on some of the higher tier laptops, and that was quite easy for us. We used just a picture, but in 2017 we also beat Samsung's iris scanner with a 2D picture and some glue that we actually painted it on the eye. Now, over the past few days, we also made a mask that were able to beat the iPhone X's Face ID. Now, do you know that whose face it is on this mask? What we did was we constructed a mask, a 3D mask, and then we staple a 2D picture of the person on the mask. So we used a 2D picture that was glued on the mask, a 3D mask, to beat the iPhone's 10's Face ID. So we also do a demo that was videotaped and we posted it online. So today I'll do the demo again for you. I have an iPhone 10 here. It's put on the holder here. This iPhone 10 was registered with my face on it, so it can recognize my face. So to begin the demo, I will unlock the iPhone with my face. It's on the holder here. So you see that when you focus on the iPhone's screen, you see that when there's no one's face before it, it requires the password to be entered. Now I will unlock the iPhone with this specially designed mask. So please zoom in on the phone screen. So you see, the iPhone was unlocked. I will do the demo once again. Well, we also posted a clip online before, but it was a little bit too quick, so some people asked us to do the demo again. Now I'll do it slowly this time. So you see, in terms of the security configuration of the Face ID is set at the highest level. It requires the owner of the iPhone to look directly onto the screen. But you see, even with that kind of configuration, we can still beat it with this mask. Now, let me do another demo for you while I'm unlocking this phone with my face in different angles. So what is my demo telling you? When Apple is presenting the Face ID technology, they're saying that the Face ID of the iPhone X does not accept 2D pictures. But with that mask, you saw that it actually accepts the 2D picture because the 2D picture was glued onto the mask, a 3D mask. It's just a 2D picture that was cropped and then glued on it. And also when Apple's promoting the iPhone 10's Face ID, they talked about how they worked with the Hollywood mask makers to teach the artificial intelligence of the iPhone's Face ID to learn the difference between a fake mask and a real face. But you see that in this case, we were able to trick the iPhone's Face ID with just a mask and some 2D pictures like this. So you see that I was able to unlock the iPhone with my face, either my face or the mask. And you see it's definitely different. That's not, the mask doesn't look like me at all. But it was still able to unlock the Face ID, the iPhone. Now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Nguyen Quang to continue on the presentation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all who's watching us on live stream. The video clip on how the mask that Bkav has created that beat the iPhone 10's Face ID was able to capture lots of attention all around the world. And people are very much surprised by the fact that such a simple mask that costs only $150 were able to beat this Face ID's technology of Apple, whereas lots of other groups or experts who have tried over and over again to beat this Face ID's technology unsuccessfully. And I even heard a couple of colleagues who said that they're very tired of all these tests without any success of beating the system. So how come we're able to beat this technology with such a simple mask, whereas other people who spend thousands and thousands of dollars on other kinds of masks have tried with no success at all? So that's why we have received lots of questions and attention from the press and media all over the world. Now, there were interesting questions, and there were also cynicism. They were questioning how we beat the Apple's Face ID's technology, and that is why we have today's press conference. And we will show you how we do it, how we did it, in order to bypass the Face ID's technology. So now, first of all, we got to look at the very nature of the Face ID's technology. Now, this is basically how the technology was developed. There's three pieces to the technology. Now, I'll speak in common terms. And the first piece is basically like a light bulb, but it's actually projecting infrared. So it's lighting up the face of the owner with infrared to take pictures. You know, if they use a normal light bulb, then they won't be able to, it's going to disrupt the owners, and it's not going to work because it's going to be interrupted by other kinds of lights. So they use infrared, which is similar to iris scanners of Samsung. And they will take a picture of this infrared picture, and they have also a second light bulb. So in addition to the Samsung's iris scanner, they have another so-called light bulb, which is actually using dot projection technology. So they will analyze the different depths of your face in order to map a 3D picture of your face, or the owner's face. It will analyze the depth which is lower, which is higher, and that is how they were able to construct a 3D map of the owner's picture, of the owner's face. So, as security experts, it's our job to look at new technologies, especially widely used technology. We have to find a way to beat the system, to find loopholes in these systems. And like we said before, in 2008, when face recognition was integrated for the first time in laptops, and we spent a few months to try to beat that technology, and we did, and we were able to give some warnings to user. And also when Samsung debuted the iris scanner, we also found ways to beat the system and warn the users. Now, in the case of the iPhone X's Face ID, now there's three pieces to it. Like we said, first of all is a picture of the owner, and then the 3D mapping, and the third piece to this technology is artificial intelligence, or AI. So they use AI to teach the machine to overcome the fake mask. So we have to overcome all these three challenges in order to beat the system and unlock the iPhone. So as security experts, we've been following the face recognition technology and try to beat it over the past 10 years. And I was there firsthand on the day Apple debuted the iPhone X, and I saw the demo in which they taught the AI to distinguish between the fake mask and the real mask. And right then and there, I saw a loophole in this technology. I felt it. Now, let me give you more details on that. Now, when you look at the mask that we constructed, first of all, we have 2D pictures of the face of the owner. Now, we use the same trick to beat the face recognition technology 9 years ago. Now, and we also have a 3D printed mask to beat the 3D mapping piece of the technology. The most difficult thing is to beat the AI. Now, I saw that loophole when I was at the conference in which Apple debuted the iPhone X. So, with that in mind, I tested the iPhone X for 5 minutes, and I realized that my rationale was correct. So, just as Apple has said, they let the AI learn billions and billions of real people's face, and then they taught the iPhone X the Hollywood-made mask. So the iPhone X can distinguish between a Hollywood-made mask and a real face, but that means the iPhone X can only distinguish either a real face or a fake face. Now, what happens if it's part fake, part real? Now, we know exactly how AI works. So that's why we were able to understand the loophole in this AI, and we try to make sure that it's not completely fake. It's not like a Hollywood fake face mask, but it's also similar to a real face, which means part fake, part real. Now, if you zoom in there, Our rationale is that we'll build a mask that's half fake, half real. So you see that we use a 2D picture, so that's a real picture, that's a real part of it. We will glue it on the 3D mask. If we were to expand it and make it covering the whole face, then the AI will be able to recognize it. But we'll keep it small like that, and we'll just put it on the mask, and then we create a nose with a silicon nose, and we only keep it at the nose part of the face. The rest of it, we'll keep it fake. And the rest of the mask is actually covered with white tapes. It's really cheap in Vietnam. It's like 50 cents for an entire roll. So when we do that, the AI wouldn't be able to know that this is a face mask. It's just because this is not entirely fake, it's not entirely real, so the AI is confused. So this is a very simple way in which we analyze the AI and we understand the weakness of the AI and beat it. Now, if you start off with something, that does not have the same rationale that we do, they would have to test thousands and thousands of ways, and that's why it's very stressful for them, and that's why some of my colleagues told me that they spend hours and lots of money trying to beat the iPhone X's Face ID with no success. But once we have that kind of rationale, we created a mask that does not look real at all. It does not look as real as the Hollywood's mask. However, it was able to beat the Face ID of the iPhone X. Now, of course, it took us about a week to do it, and it is stressful at times, but once we have the rationale in place, we believe that we'll be able to finally beat the system, and we did. So the result is we have a very simple mask. It looks simple, and it was able to beat the iPhone X's Face ID. But what's complicated is the rationale behind it. What's complicated is the fact that the people who built that mask must be able to understand the AI and the weakness of the AI. And that's the value added that we have put in order to develop this mask. Holding up a 3D printed face mask that looks a lot like me, because they use my face to model this mask upon. So Mr. Kung will try to teach this face mask to the iPhone X for recognition. Now let's see if the iPhone X can learn this face mask. Will it be able to recognize this face mask? Now you see that the AI of the iPhone has recognized that this is not a real face. It's a face mask, and that's why it does not recognize it. And this is something that Apple has taught the iPhone X. Now let me teach it with my face. I'll take off my glasses so it looks better. Yeah, it recognized my face right away. Very good. Let's do it one more time. Let me try to unlock it. Right, recognize me, and it opens up. It unlocks right away. So, Mr. Kung, can you help me? You take the 2D picture, the crop eye from the 2D pictures. Do you think that it would be able to recognize me? Let me try. Oh, it still recognized me. So one more. So you see, that's my two eyes. It's a very simple demo. It's exactly what we did. We have repeated this process over and over and over again, like Mr. Guang has said, over the course of 1 week. You see that this is not my eye, but Face ID was able to recognize it. And this iPhone is actually configured at a very high level of requirement or security requirement. It requires the person to look directly to the iPhone, and yet the mask was still able to beat it. Requirement or security requirement. It requires.
Và sau đây thì
Well, now I'll give you more details on how we were able to complete this POC, this proof of concept. Now, before going into the steps, let me explain to you what is proof of concept. Now, in cybersecurity, proof of concept is basically a proof of whether or not we can do something. So it's proof of principle. And after that, based on this POC, people will develop different scenarios. For example, in the iris scanner technology, together with a colleague in Germany, we use infrared camera during our tests. So we take a picture of the eyes of the person who's conducting the test with us. So we take a picture, we take an IR picture of the eyes of the person, but in the actual scenario, that was, a laboratory, a test scenario, but in a real life scenario, the attacker or the hacker would have to take pictures of the person in some other ways. Now, for us, when we develop the POC, we take a 3D picture of the face of the person. And this could be done very easily, just with a smartphone.
đây là một cái điện thoại có tính năng là chụp ảnh 3D.
And you see that this is a 3D picture that was captured by this phone actually. It's very phone. And 3D picturing is something that been developed pretty widespread all over the world. Even in Vietnam, there are places where they take 3D pictures of your face, and once they take the picture, they can easily 3D print a face mask that's similar to your face. And once we 3D printed the frame, we use the 2D picture. This is the picture that we have used in this POC, in this test. And we also asked a craftsman to make a silicone nose for us. And we also adjust the face mask so that it can beat the iPhone's Face ID, following the rationale that Mr. Guang has explained to you before. Since this is a POC, it took us about 8 to 9 hours to configure, to adjust the mask so that it can ultimately unlock the iPhone. Now the process could be shortened once we were able to master our techniques. It's just like when we try to beat the iris scanner. It took us 2 months to beat the Samsung's iris scanner, and at the beginning it took us days in order to adjust the printout in order to beat the iris scanner. But once we were able to master the techniques or the art of beating the iris scanner, it would only take us 15 minutes to create the right picture. So when we develop the POC, we follow the principle that there should be no passcode. So once we add anything to the mask in order to beat the AI of Face ID, if the test was not successful, we will not put the passcode in. We will use the face of the person to unlock the iPhone again instead of inputting the passcode. So that will make sure that the phone will not learn more about the face mask features. And that way, and we will also be not be limited by the 5 tries limits or restriction of the iPhone. So that's how we do it. I'd like to add a couple things. Mr. Tonang said that the POC is similar to the POC that we developed with the iris scanner. While in order to beat it the first time, of course, it takes lots of tries. The iris scanner, it will lock the phone after 3 tries, and for iPhone, it will lock the phone after 5 tries. Of course, we have other details in terms of the process we beat the Face ID, but we'll keep it as a secret. We'll only share it with the manufacturer. Now, the conclusion is that iris scanner or Face ID, overall, the face recognition technology has not been able to fully develop and be completed after 10 years of development since 2008. Now, what's the difference between iris scanner and Apple's Face ID? Like I said before, we're one of the 2 companies that were able to beat the iris scanner of Samsung. Now, what I can tell you is that both iris scanner and Face ID could be beat. And that means that it's not entirely secure. Now, iris scanner can actually distinguish between twins, but Face ID could barely distinguish between twins. So without any updates or improvements, I could say that by and large, Apple's Face ID is in fact weaker than Samsung's iris scanner. So how do you compare these two technologies with fingerprints? After our analysis, we see that a 2D picture or 3D picture or combination of both can be either iris scanner or the Face ID. Now, fingerprints could also be beaten by capturing the fingerprints of the owner. However, it's harder to really get the fingerprints of someone compared to just taking a picture, 3D or 2D pictures for that matter. And the technology is being developed, and you see that with the development of technology, it's going to get easier and easier. And that's how POC works, because we have to point out things to people, because maybe now it is hard to get the 3D picture of a face, but in the next couple of years it might be a whole lot easier, and it could be dangerous or risky to the owner of the iPhone. Now, I spoke to some guy the other day, and he told me that he's going to actually import a set that can take 3D pictures of people's faces. So what I can tell you is that Face ID or iris scanner are in fact weaker as security measures compared to fingerprints. Now, when Face ID was beaten, as we did, I can tell you that for normal users, consumers, it's not going to be such a big issue, but for high-profile users, they should be aware of this risk, because the potential that the hackers can extract from beating their phones can be enormous, and people will invest the time and resources in trying to do so. Now, for the users who want to protect their information, their data, now you saw that Face ID can in fact learn another face. Besides the owner of the iPhone, it can also learn about a face mask. So they can actually use a face mask to unlock the iPhone when the person is not aware of. So the danger here is that people can teach the iPhone the face mask, and then they'll give the phone back to the owner without the owner knowing that the phone can be unlocked with a face mask, and then the hacker can unlock the phone whenever they want. You know, if people just attack our phone and delete all the data, of course that's dangerous, but it's actually better than people hack our phone without us knowing and can steal any data whenever they want. Now, with other technologies, you can lend people your phone, but with this technology, and once Face ID is registered on your phone, make sure that you don't lend it to anyone else, because that's dangerous. Your phone could be hacked easily. And we should also be very careful when using Face ID for e-payment. With iris scanner, once we were able to beat iris scanner with a group of engineers in Germany, and once Samsung is aware of it, they have given out a warning to users that they should not use iris scanner for electronic payments, and I think that Apple should do the same. So we can see the Face ID is not as secure as Apple said. they said that it could distinguish, it could recognize 2D pictures, or it could recognize face mask, meaning that it's not going to be beaten by either of those. But in fact, in this case, we have beaten it with the face mask and 2D pictures. So the conclusion is that this technology is not as secure as Apple said. And artificial intelligence is still a technology created by man. Now, it could learn from the experience of its maker, in this case, Apple. But if you have more experience than the maker of the AI, you can actually find a way to beat it, like we did. Now, the fact that Bkav can build a mask that can beat Apple's Face ID has created lots of excitement around the world, and we have received lots of questions, and that's why we have posted to our websites lots of questions and answers, and we'll pick some most interesting questions, or the most asked questions to explain to you in today's conference. Now, this question we've seen a lot. So when we make the mask, did we teach the mask to the iPhone 10? Now Mr. Tonang will answer this question. So, like I've shown you in the presentation, Bkav actually followed a no passcode policy in our test, and I can demo. I can give you a very simple demo right now. Like I showed you, the phone was on the holder, and then I can unlock the phone with different angles of my face. So please focus on the screen while I unlock it. So you see I was able to unlock it.
Sở dĩ nó mở khóa thoải mái như này thì bởi vì cái camera cái iPhone này.
Well, the iPhone has learned my face, learned to recognize my face. So it was able to unlock my face in different angles, but if I use a mask, the face mask, then it's not going to be able to be unlocked in the different angle. Now if I put it back to the right angle that I showed you, what's important is the angle. I have to fix it on this holder here.
Đấy, các bạn có thể thấy là chỉ đúng vị trí này.
So, see that it can only be unlocked at this angle, this very angle. So that's the best response to the question whether or not we taught this face mask to the iPhone 10. Now, if we had we taught it to the iPhone 10, then it would be able to recognize the face mask on different angles. So you see, Apple try to make it easier and convenient to the owners. If the iPhone has learned and to recognize the person's face, it could recognize the person's face from whatever angle. Now, had we taught the same thing to the iPhone 10, it would be able to be unlocked with the same face mask with different angles. But in this case, you see that it didn't. We have to set it at the right angle. So that means that we did not teach the iPhone to learn to recognize this face mask. Now, another widely asked question. Now, the iPhone 10 has a restriction of 5 tries. So how do we beat this system? For example, like iris scanner, they give 3 tries. With Face ID, we have 5 tries. And this is a proof of concept. And we try to, what we could do is to try to create the optimal scenario. And from this POC, we can come up with different scenarios. You know, for example, a spy or someone who's trying to unlock your phone, they know you personally, and they will try to, you know, they'll try a way to teach this face mask to the phone, and the person unlock it when the owner is not aware of. So that answers the second question. The third question, which we've seen a whole lot, is that if we reset the Face ID and re-register the face, then what will happen? Mr. Tonang will answer this question. Like what I told you about the process in which we beat the Face ID from the construction of the mask and adjusting the mask in order to make sure that it can unlock this iPhone. Now, up until now, there are different ways we found in order to adjust the face mask so that it can unlock the iPhone. We started with the eyes, but we can also extend it to other features in the face, and it took us about 9 to 10 hours to beat it for the first time. And what we pay a whole lot of attention to is the loophole, or the weakness point. Now, how do we know that we need how to adjust the eyes or the features, whether or not we have to move it up or move it down so that it can unlock the iPhone? What we realize is when it's closed to be open, it vibrates. The phone actually vibrates, so that is the loophole. Because when it's closed to be recognized, it vibrates. So we know that we're getting pretty darn close, and that's how we were able to adjust the feature of the face mask. So what we do is, for example, if we move the eyes up a little bit and it doesn't vibrate, but when we move it down, it vibrates, and that's how we're gonna know where we're getting close and how to adjust these features on the face mask. And once we know these techniques, it will take us a whole lot shorter. Instead of 9-10 hours, it could take 15 minutes. So what we see is that the face mask is, this is very simple. Now we can update it, we can make improvements to it so that it beat the Face ID quicker and easier. So, show is pretty much over. what we try to tell you or show you is that the face recognition technology has not been developed in completion, and we hope that sometime in the future we can tell consumers that this is a safe technology to use, but unfortunately this is not the time yet. And again, thank you for your participation, and I'd like to also thank the audience who's watching us on the live stream. Thank you. If you have further questions, we're happy to take them, and we'll answer you after this conference or via emails. Thank you.